Hey review family, keep it high, keep it tight. My name is Jay Morse, the review guy, and I'm back again to bring you another video. And in this one I'm going to be covering the brand new Danny Worsnop album entitled Shades of Blue. So this is the second studio-length album by Danny Worsnop, the singer, songwriter, and main vocalist for the English metal and hard rock band Asking Alexandria. In early 2017, and he also dropped some singles before then, he released his debut studio-length album, The Long Way Home, which featured him going in kind of a country rock direction. It was met with very polarizing opinions from both sides of the music spectrum, people that really liked it, people that really didn't. Now for me, the reason that I didn't enjoy that album wasn't because it was necessarily a bad album, but because, in my opinion, it was a bad country album. It just felt very drab, very garish, very uninspired, and there wasn't really anything to it that made me jump out and just be like, this is an amazing album. I remember when Danny released the track Little Did I Know in anticipation for this album, and I was kind of beating around the bush and saying, am I going to cover it, am I not going to, and then I just said, hey, let's go ahead and see if it's any better. Because I have enjoyed some country, both contemporary and classic, if it's done to an interesting effect, but most of the time, especially in the 2010s and to a lesser degree the 2000s, country has just been in this massive loop where it's very uninspired, it's not doing anything to innovate itself or push it out of its comfort zone, very uninspired song topics. The instrumentation could, you could put me in a line with 10 country songs, contemporary, with a gun to my head, and I probably couldn't tell them apart. And not to mention with bands like Florida Georgia Line and Blake Shelton, it's getting even more commercialized and intertwined with more pop and, God forbid, trap. But that's enough about my hate of contemporary country for the most part. That may be a completely different video that I may do, and I want to rant about how country has just been in the tubes recently. This album is even worse than The Long Road Home, and I genuinely mean that. For the same reasons that The Long Road Home was very uninspired, very boring to me, and didn't do anything to keep me interested, this album just takes that as a stepping stone and builds on it to an even worse effect. Just like on the first track, Little Did I Know, it's a great encapsulated variation of every song that's on this entire album, and anyone that listens to this is going to get the vibe of this album and what it's gonna do very, very quickly, because it has the uninspired, glitzy, country rock type guitars and Danny just doing his kind of Texan accent, which he's always been known to do. He's called the Texan King even though he's English, and his voice fits this style. I'm not gonna sit here and say that his voice doesn't fit this style, but at the same time, it doesn't stand out in this style. He is not the type of vocalist, in my opinion, that steps out of the boundaries of country and it's just wow, this is someone that I'm going to really remember. The harmonized group vocals that appear occasionally on this album are very boring and annoying, and when they come in, they pierce through, and it just visually makes me cringe. Physically, I cringe when they come. Not to mention the mix is so overproduced on this album. It is so glitzy to the point to where if any of these instrumentations had any endearing qualities or sweetness to them, they're gonna be immediately sapped and just become devoid of any genuine feeling or invoking any emotion to the listener, because they're just so overproduced. It makes it sound like a mainstream pop song, this is the same production you'd hear from an Ariana Grande or a Billie Eilish. I mean, no offense to Billie Eilish, actually. She's better than this in terms of production. I mean, Best Bad Habit builds on everything that was bad about Little Did I Know, only it adds in these really garish, funky, jazzy horns that I just cannot for the life of me get how this got through all of the producers and Danny. Yeah, this sounds really good. Let's include these horns. And my issue with these horns are the same issue with a lot of these instrumentals, and that is they're put in places and they're put and played in such a way that they are so one-dimensional, so cliche, and something that if you've heard any bit of mainstream country right now, or even old country, it's gonna be so apparent that this album's not trying to do anything to just intrigue you or sweep you off your feet. It's so cookie cutter, it's so base level, it's so 101. I mean, contrary to what a lot of people think, I have listened to quite a lot of country, both new and old, in endeavors to not only find new music, but to review music and all that type of stuff, and I can easily say that this reeks of every bad gentrified type of, archetype for bad contemporary country music. It's just like at the end of the day, just like gerrymandering to the lowest common denominator possible. I will give Danny one thing on this album, and this is the only reason I'm not going to be slapping the score with just like an insanely low score. His balladry on this album is really good, and it's something that a lot of country music is lacking in recently, and that is just beautiful country ballads. It's something that a lot of the classic people used to do, and those are some of the most just enigmatic and powerful and just poignant type of songs for country music. And a lot of times with all this trap-inspired instrumentation in mainstream country music and all of these like poppy tunes and poppy crossovers, you're not really getting that emotional like feel to it. Like Tomorrow, it's a great track. In my personal opinion, this is where Danny shines. I mean, the guitars sound something similar to what you would get off of Vultures from their self-titled album for Asking Alexandria, and his voice and his vocals and his lyrics are honestly on point. This is a heartbreaking track, and it's one of the first tracks in a while from anyone that genuinely tugged at my heartstrings a lot. And while it is a little stereotypical for the genre, so I might be a little bit hypocritical here, don't overdrink it off Danny's first album, The Long Road Home. There's no songs like that on this album that just feel like just fun country bops. And even if you do get that, it's caked in this kind of heart-sick love aspect to it, which I guess Shades of Blue is kind of talking about that. But other than the balladry, the instrumentation is very drab, very boring. The production is overmodulated and it's over-equalized to all hell. Danny is a nice vocalist, but he's not a standout vocalist in this style, and overall the song topics were not really approached with much grace except for tracks like Tomorrow and some of the balladry on the album. So overall, this is not necessarily just a bad album. Like I said with The Long Road Home, it's kind of a bad country album. For that, I'm going to be giving it a 4 out of 10, and that is a wrap. So if you want, you can stay for the end screen. I'll link some videos you might be interested in. Please subscribe to the channel. It'll help me out a lot, and like this video if you enjoyed it. Smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads, and I'll talk to you guys next time. But until then, my name is Jay Morse, Review Guy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.